Everybody, we are getting ready to start this workshop, and I'm getting ready to call the meeting to order. And with that, we'll go ahead down the line here is Section 2, approval of agenda. 2.1 will be changes to agenda and approval of agenda. Section 3 is recognitions. We have none. Section 4 is visitors, and even though it's not listed, Mr. Horton, we're going to turn it over to you, sir. And this is for workshop only today, so.
As Mr. Horton comes up, we do have with us Michelle Burns. She's the president of the Public Schools Foundation, so we are very happy that you're here. Mr. Horton, who's the executive director, and then we also have Mrs. Tate, as many of you know, that deals with community affairs and the Public Schools Foundation. And I do want to say Ms. Tate is probably the glue that holds a lot of this together. She does a lot of that heavy lifting and helps support Community Affairs and the Public Schools Foundation. So I appreciate y'all being here, giving this update.
Thank you. We could get Debbie up here too because she may have a word or two to say, but thank you for allowing us to come and share some information with you about the Public Schools Foundation. And as you know, Ms. Ivanchek is a member of that foundation as a board member. Mr. Chambers, as the superintendent, is also a member of our board. And I've been with the foundation as the executive director since Ms. Gates retired, and so a lot of what you're going to see today and hear today is based on the good work she did with the foundation over the years that she was serving as executive director. If those of you who don't know Ms. Burns, I'll introduce her. She's also the executive director of CareerSource, Okaloosa Walton. So she is very much tied in and embedded in what we do as a school district with OTC and our own schools in terms of supporting our students in careers and certifications, all those sorts of things. So I will turn it over to her, and we'll only be filling in on technical pieces where she and Ms. Ivanchek probably could be a third part of this presentation. But this particular document will be posted on the website and available. It just gives some highlights with the caveat that 2020, 2021 was a tough year for everybody, so it was a difficult year for the foundation in terms of being able to do the things that we typically like to do, but you'll see that still a lot was accomplished in the past year. Turn it over to Ms. Burns.
Thank you, Steve. First of all, I want to thank Steve for his leadership. He had some big shoes to fill, and he has jumped right in, and we have just kept going, and we've had a really, through it all, still had a really, really, I think, good year. And a lot of this, and it's in front of you, and I hate to read part of it to you, but I just want to highlight some of the things that we have done and we will be doing. One of the things I like to just say is, we do scholarships for children and we do teacher grants. And that's the basic of the foundation. And those are two really, really important things. And we've done 77 classroom grants over the last 3 years. And to me, it's really exciting. We've got $40,000 this year. I think the grants just went out, Debbie told me, to the teachers, and we'll be able to award up to $2,500. And that's just so important. We all know how much teachers do, and that little bit of extra, anything that we can do extra to put in their classrooms is so important. We have 57 students in Take Stock this year. Steve and I have been talking about fundraising ideas that we want to continue to do. We want to get that number back up to 100 where it used to be, but we're going to need a little bit of time. But that's our goal, and we're going to get there. The foundation did help with the Stuff the Bus. Okay, I couldn't remember. And I know I went to out to the conference center one Saturday, and as people were coming in, they were all bringing school supplies. So that's some of the things that we've helped with a little bit. Something else that kind of falls underneath the foundation, but Debbie really is in charge of, and I think it's definitely worth mentioning, is the volunteer coordination, and she kind of handles all that along with everything that, of course, we hand her over for the foundation. And there were over 73,000 volunteer hours in our schools from 2019 to 20, and I think that's remarkable even through everything that we've been through. When we talked about fundraising, one of the things that we started a few years back and kind of got derailed and got right back on it was really asking for the school district employees just to give $1 each month out of their check. And because we give the money back, and I think that helps show the importance of the foundation, and when there's buy-in, of course, it's good for all of us. And over 330 school district employees now donate to the foundation, so that's great, and that's to the tune of over $12,000. So that's really helped a lot, along with the other things that we want to do. So talking about one of the things we do too is we write grants. Well, I don't write the grants, but Debbie and her team and I'll write the grants. And I'm gonna let Steve talk about how the matching, how all the matching works, because I'm not really, I'm a little bit clear on it, but not completely. But The Boeing grant helped over 3,000 students this year and 70 teachers, and that grant was $50,000. And that was for some little bit kits. They were pretty fun to look at, where the students could all build things, so that was exciting. AT&T was a $2,000 grant, and that went to Wright Elementary for aviation. We had a Motorola grant for $5,000, and that went to Pryor Middle School, and that was all involved in construction. And the Florida Lottery, we spent that money, it was $4,000, and we had a college and career fair. And I was like, Saturday morning, we are never gonna get these kids here. Well, I was wrong. We're gonna need more space, we're gonna need more room. And I know it's a Saturday, but I'm telling you, it was well worth it to be there on that Saturday, to see all those kids. They were so excited. I got to meet one little student that he was just so shy. I thought he was gonna be glued to my hip before it was over with, and made sure that he got to meet the principal at his high school. He had been homeschooled, he was ready to come back. So, I just went home feeling so good that I maybe had just done something just to help him, and just that day was so exciting. Debbie helped us get all kinds of food donated. It was fun. It got over way too fast. My Career Source team came. We did some really bad interviews for them. Just made a fun day of it, though. So it's really important, to just be involved, I think. And so let's see, what else have I forgotten? Gulf Power, there's $20,000, and that helps with our teachers' grants. And it's just exciting. You've already heard about our burgers and bingo night and how exciting that was, and the money we raised. So we're just looking forward to continuing the process and the momentum. And I'm gonna let Steve turn it over to him and talk about the matching, unless anyone has any questions. Hopefully I covered most of all of it quickly.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna leave it with you.
You don't have to go anywhere, but you can. So just for the public, and I know board members, you're aware of the foundation, its purpose. We have a mission statement on the front of this document that is to serve as a catalyst to promote excellence in Okaloosa schools, enhancing teaching and learning through community and private sector support for special programs. So community and private sector support. So the foundation is not an entity that takes taxpayer dollars and uses it to further education. It's not a foundation, it's a nonprofit entity. And we live and thrive on grants that we go out and apply for. We live on donations that are made to us by businesses or individuals. And then we also live off of fundraisers, like Ms. Burns said, the Burgers and Bingo event. So that's how we operate. And how well we do in those areas, those three areas, dictates how successful the Take Stock in Children programs is, with the scholarships that we provide to high school students who are of need. It also dictates how many dollars and how many grants we can put out into our schools to help our students. So over the years, thousands and thousands of students have been helped through private donations. So we don't use taxpayer dollars, but the good thing is any donation to the Public Schools Foundation is tax exempt. So people actually can have a tax benefit for doing a donation. So I think Ms. Burns is right on point that our job is to make the good work that the foundation does evident and visible to the community, because Okaloosa County is well known for supporting things that work. And so that's our job to do in this particular instance. I do want to mention, just for the folks who will be seeing this flyer, the concept of the Consortium of Florida Education Foundations. So our school district, our county has a public school foundation. That's one foundation. There's one like us in 66 of the 67 districts in Florida. Together we make up what's known as a consortium of Florida Education Foundations. It's a group. The benefit of being in that group, and we do pay a small fee to be a part of that group, but the benefit of it is, as a large consortium, they have access to funds as well. And what we can do with the consortium is, when we raise money through grants and other methods, then we can get those dollars matched through this consortium. So if we raise $50,000 in grants, then we can get an additional $50,000 through the consortium. So that gives us the power of $100,000 to provide grants to teachers and work with Take Stock. So that's the beauty of being a member of this state organization, is that it can not double the amount of money that we have to spend in our schools, but it does absolutely support that. So what you'll see there in that chart on the back page of this document is the funding that's called matching funding that we've received from this entity over the past 4 years. So we're very excited that because we're raising more money in Okaloosa County, we're able to get more dollars in the forms of matching grants. And you'll see there's been a 48% increase over the last 4 years. So I had to throw a chart in there somewhere, Joe. And then I would be remiss also if I didn't mention that the foundation steps out and supports things without a lot of recognition. So as it relates to the Teacher of the Year program and the Ed Support Professional of the Year program, the foundation supports goodie bags for all of those site winners and also cash prizes and awards for the actual finalists. So just things like that to continue to promote public education. So that's what we're here to do. I've enjoyed being a part of that organization. Some great folks there. And we've got great organizations we partner with. United Way goes hand in hand with us to do a lot of events. Great companies like Gulf Power, Chelco, Fishbein. Fishbein has provided us with water bottles through the foundation. And so any number of folks, the Mid-Bay Rotary Club provides us a scholarship check every year that funds one Take Stock program. So there's so many people out in the community that support the foundation because they know that they're supporting Okaloosa Public Schools when they do so. All right?
Okay, I got to say something.
You got to say something.
I just love being the board's representative to the foundation. It's continued to grow, and everything about it is positive. Like Mr. Horton was saying, there's no negative. We're not taking away from anything. Everything is a positive coming back to the school district, mainly students and the employees. And I hope everyone will notice the box you have down here on who's on our board. These individuals, these are heavy hitter professionals in our communities, and they are dedicated to this foundation. They are they bring in some of those grants. They're ready to do whatever is needed, and they're the bulk of the board. I know there's Mr. Horton, there's Ms. Tate is an employee, I'm on the board, and all that, but most everybody is a community member. So it's really come a long way. I know Mrs. Gates got it, going again and everything, and then you've picked it up. So it's I think it's wonderful, and what we're doing is I just only see it getting better. And my only complaint is that I didn't win at the bingo thing, and I knew all the numbers, but I just didn't get them right. But I just want to thank the foundation board for their continued commitment, because without these community members, we could not continue to do what we're doing. We just could not come up with these funds on our own. Thank you for the presentation. I've been wanting the foundation to come for a long time, and I'm glad that you were able to come in today.
Was Miss Gates here when I complimented her?
No.
She got
I don't think so. I think she walked in right after.
All right, well, she can watch it on. She can
Yeah,
stream
it'll be on tape.
Right,
And-
okay.
And I just want to say, I appreciate so much the handout and the fact that that's posted on our website for interested members of the public to take a look at and shows some of the good work that you folks are doing. So
Yes,
thank you
sir.
for that.
It'll be
too.
out there, and if you'll notice, Dr. White, bottom left of the front page, donate here. There's a link for those who are inclined
I
to do
left
it
that part out,
online,
but I get
or
it.
for those who want the paper and pencil check version, there's a place to send that to as well, so.
And this can come out of an employee's paycheck. I mean,
It
this
can,
is-
it
they can
absolutely,
send-
it
okay.
can, and so that's something that last year with the foundation and kind of working like all other organizations did not get into the schools to do that. If you were at the summer refuel seminar with the principals and you attended one of my sessions, you heard me lean into the administrators a little bit about supporting the Public School Foundation in a friendly way, and they stepped up. And we've got significant investment on the part of our principals who see what's going on in the schools.
Our employees do step up
Yep,
They do.
to support our students.
good.
And thank you, Ms. Burns, for coming in. Appreciate it.
Yes. All right. So now we'll move down the line here. So we have no administrative personnel appointments. Section 6 will be 6.1, members of the public desiring to address the school board. Form MIS 5241, public input and/or discussion of agenda items. And Section 7 is committee and staff reports. This will be workshop only. 7.1, in-county travel paid for the period of September 23rd, October 6th, 2021. Item 7.2, out-of-county travel paid for the period of September 23rd through October 6th, 2021. 7.3, quarterly report, service agreements under the $5,000 threshold for internal and budgetary funds. And 7.4, quarterly report, short-term facility use contracts and lease agreements under the $5,000 threshold. Now we're to Section 8, consent agenda. 8.1 will be the approval of the consent agenda. 8.2, approval of the minutes of the workshop meeting of October 7th, 2021. Minutes of regular meeting of October 11th, 2021. 8.3, appropriation of District 4 School Board member capital outlay funds to Shoal River Middle School for a field mower in the amount of $8,125, presented by myself. 8.4, appropriation of District 4 School Board member capital outlay funds to Southside Primary School for iPads for the VPK and pre-KD programs in the amount of $12,956, as presented by myself. 8.5, request to advertise a public hearing for revision of School Board Policy 01-19, Family and School Partnership for Students. 8.6, request to advertise a public hearing for revision of School Board Policies in Chapter 5, Student Education Records. 8.7, Budget Amendment Number 1, fiscal year 2021 through 2022. 8.8, monthly financial statement for September 2021. 8.9, invoices to be approved for payment. 8.10, school donations. 8.11, payroll warrant register and accounts payable warrant register for September 2021, totaling $27,468,156.63, and bank transfers for September 2021, totaling $5,060,000. 8.12, appointment of selection committee for RFP 22-01 underwriting services. 8.13, ITB 22-02 wastewater treatment plant operator services. 8.14, tag-on bid over $25,000 for Staples. 8.15, tag-on bid RFP 19-2, various equipment and amenities for parks and playgrounds. 8.16, tag-on bid purchase over $25,000 Busco lighting. 8.17, exempted purchases over $25,000, estimated figures for Advanced International Certificate of Education, AICE, and Advanced Placement, AP examinations. 8.18, service agreement number 22-86, Ethica LLC. 8.19, service agreement number 22-87, Brent Purcell. 8.20, 2021 through 2022 Uniform Statewide Assessment Calendar. 8.21, Memorandum of Understanding between CareerSource Okaloosa Walton and Okaloosa Technical College in the amount of $1,639. 8.22, Kids Code Legislative Funding Grant 2021 through 2022. 8.23, agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida and the University of Florida Board of Trustees. 8.24, Bureau of Federal Educational Programs, Title III, Language Instruction for English Learners and Immigrant, Enhanced Instructional Opportunities for Recently Arrived Immigrant Children and Youth Project application for the 21 through 2022 school year. And finally, 8.25, course adoptions for the 2021 through 2022 school year. And then that will go down to now Section 9, Superintendent's Human Resource Recommendations. 9.1, employees on administrative leave. 9.2, cleared certification requirements and issuance of contracts for the 2021 through 2022 school year. 9.3, add a field report for the 2021 through 2022 school year. 9.4, employment separations. 9.5, personnel recommendations. 9.6, employee transfers. 9.7, employee suspension. 9.8, leave without pay. 9.9, reinstatement, reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty, illness, injury, medical examination. And then that brings us down to Section 10, discussion agenda. And at this time, there is no items that have been moved from consent agenda. And then Section 11 is the construction programs owners representatives business, 11.1. And Dr. Kelly, I'll turn that over to you.
And we've already had our meeting for this month and our presentation about that meeting. And so our next one will occur the first Monday in November.
And so now we're to 11.2, Titan Technologies Capital Outlay Program 6, Shared Savings Task Order number 1, number 3, and number 8, Partial Shared Savings Task Order number 2, and Closeout Time and Materials Task Order number 5. And nothing, Section 12, Information Technology Seat Management Contract. Section 13, Attorney's Business, Mr. McInnes.
Just one item, Mr. Chairman. On Monday night, I'll bring a recommended retainer agreement to you for Attorney Franklin Harrison with the Hand Arundel Harrison firm to handle a couple of matters for the board involving some potential site leasing and potential site acquisition.
Okay. Before we go to Mr. Chambers' business, can we go back to item 11.2 real quick? And I think it's important that we share with the public how much money we're saving. So if it's okay to have, I think we're going to have Mr. Horton come up and maybe talk about-
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. As you know, the board, when it's approached with recommendations from the superintendent for construction projects, through our total program management firm, Jacobs Titan, is provided with what we refer to as a guaranteed maximum price for a project. And that's based on competitively bidding the contracting of that project out into mostly our local community. And so they come back to the board with what we, again, refer to as a guaranteed maximum price. That's an important concept because it protects the board from any cost overruns that are likely to occur in projects, especially in this market that we've been experiencing the last couple of years. And so when the board gets that from a financial standpoint and a planning standpoint, you know you're not spending more money than that on a project. The good side of that is when we're able to, and our contractors are able to save cost and not spend that entire amount on the project, then those savings do come back under what's referred to as a shared savings plan. So in this particular case, it's a fairly significant dollar amount for the school district to recoup a little bit over $1.5 million in shared savings that was previously approved and budgeted by the school board. So that money now then comes back into our capital program, which is outstanding. The importance of that is the projects are getting done as advertised and as planned, and the costs have come in under what was projected. So the shared savings concept brings that money back to the district and to the TPM, so they receive a portion of that as well because they performed under contract, in essence, on those programs. So it does give us more money in the capital budget with which to do more things. And so right now, at this point, we've got so many projects going on as we keep sharing with the board. We're continuing to look to see where that money can be spent, and if it can be used to expedite some things that we know are needed, we'll certainly be bringing that back to you to do.
Thank you, Mr. Horton.
Any
Mr.
questions?
Horton, I want to add one piece. So the guaranteed maximum price also discuss the validation process of that.
Yes, sir. So in addition to the board receiving a guaranteed maximum price on a project, there's an independent authorization of that price by a separate firm. So every time you look at a project under our total program management concept, you get not only the price of the construction project, but also an independent verification that that price is appropriate within tolerance. And so you've got a second set of eyes outside the school district looking at those guaranteed maximum prices that come to you to validate that they are accurate.
And Mr. Superintendent, if I might add, as a member of that construction committee, the board's liaison there is always lively discussion between our contract management company and the members who are on that board and the people who represent us, Mr. Meyer and others on that team, to look at what is the best route to take on each of those projects. So we do have lively discussion in the back scenes there, and it is looked at from many, many angles to make sure that we're doing the best for our schools and our principals and the communities that we serve.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Horton.
you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chambers, for allowing me to go back up to that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So now we'll move to your business, sir. So 14.1 is out-of-state student trip request, and it looks like we're going back to getting back to field trips and all the other
We
good
are,
things.
we are. First of all,
Go ahead.
sorry,
No,
I
go ahead.
apologize. So as you know, the first 9 weeks is over. Now we're into the second 9 weeks, so we're off and running. I do want to say, and I'm only going to mention this briefly because I think Ms. Ivanchek will probably have some words. I think Dr. Kelly might have some words, but I do want to say it was an honor to be at the Fort Walton Beach Women's Club the other day, and I'm going to let them share the details, but I do want to say, Ms. Ivanchek, that was so well run, so well organized, so well attended. That was a fantastic event, and I know that we'll give some of those details here when it gets to your section. I do want to give a quick update in a few areas. So one, with curriculum, we've given updates each board meeting, and after-school tutoring is off and running, but we're also transitioning to during the day tutoring, and we're allowing schools to be creative in the different measures. As you can imagine right now, this year with all that teachers and employees have on their plate, some are doing a great job after school, but some might prefer to do it before or even during the school day. So we're trying to be very, very aggressive, so to speak, on how we are meeting the needs of our students who need those tutoring services. So I appreciate Mrs. Lightbourne and her staff for being creative and figuring out ways where we can still meet the needs of our kids. So I appreciate that. Also, our curriculum department is going to be out on the road show from now, in essence through January, almost February, where they will be going out and visiting schools, seeing their school performance plans in action. Also, there'll be planned visits, and then there'll be visits where they'll just stop by and might talk with the principal or assistant principal or go to some classrooms as well. So being a presence out in the schools and being supportive, helping with the resources, giving suggestions, but also seeing the great things occurring in classrooms, and most importantly, being able to share those great things across schools is something that I'm proud of. So curriculum is always busy, but they're about to be even a little bit more busy. On the ESSER front, I want to give you just a little bit more update on ESSER 3, which from communication levels to the districts, there still is not any, but I am going to give you some updates in terms of where we are, okay? So the ESSER 3, in essence, is broken up into 7 categories that we're looking at. So we're looking at learning loss, academic support, addressing the needs of individual schools, employee relief and retention, health and safety, technology, and reserve. And I'm just going to give you just a couple highlights in each of those areas, and this is not the exhaustive list at all, just giving you just a couple highlights in them. In the learning loss, we're looking at things such as the tutoring that we just talked about, how we can be even more aggressive on that, so to speak. Summer school, professional development, textbooks is a big thing. Many of you know the allocation that you get on textbooks only covers a small fraction of what you're actually able to do. So with learning loss, we'll be looking at being able to do an entire adoption, which I think is important. And then also next school year, looking to enhance instructional coaches during the course of these ESSER funds being available. On academic support, looking at increased remediation teachers, that would be for the next school year, as well as an additional truancy officer, making sure that we recoup the kids who may have gone to other areas, and substitute reimbursement. As you can imagine, the first 9 weeks we had more subs in school buildings than normal. In the addressing needs of individual schools, we will be looking at how we can support our ESL, ESE, and ELL students. I think that is a big deal that we need to continue to be mindful of. Also looking at student desks and tables, as we've talked about in these meetings, as well as band instruments as well. As you move to employee relief and retention, we've talked about in this setting, as we know, there was a $1,000 bonus for folks last year for principals and classroom teachers defined by statute of classroom teachers. We will put in our application the ability for all employees to get this bonus, and we'll see what comes of that. We will also put in our application retention bonuses. As you know, this has been a challenge in the last 18 months, and looking at those individuals who have stayed with us during this time, I think, which is something that our understanding is an allowable expense, so to speak. So we'll be looking at retention bonuses as well, and if that's approved, then we'll be going forward with that. Also looking at getting bus drivers to a minimum wage of $15 an hour, as well as investigating, looking at paraprofessionals getting up on that scale as well. You know, some might say get everybody there, but as you can imagine, that's going to be a task, but it is something that we will have to do in terms of minimum wage in the next 2 or 3 years. So we will be looking at these funds and how we might be able to bridge that gap, because right now we know it's hard to hire bus drivers, it's hard to hire paraprofessionals, it's hard to hire some other ed support positions as well as instructional. So we're looking at how we can best utilize these funds in those areas in these specific categories. Also, health and safety. We'll be looking to do some air conditioner upgrades, touchless water fountains, still looking at our disinfectant and sanitizing supplies. Getting into technology, computers, iPads, Chromebooks, but also looking at how we might become more in the 21st century in terms of technology. And by that I mean, you know, if, heaven forbid, we ever had to go out again, we want to be sure that we're prepared. Curriculum, MIS, and other departments have already been working on the continuity plan if in fact we had to go out for whatever the reason is, and technology is also a portion of that. So we want to be sure that we are prepared in any scenario, but also just good classroom instruction. And then lastly, which you'll hear me say in a second, there's also a category in reserve. So we want to make sure in terms of our FTE. So we know that COVID has impacted us when it pertains to our FTE. You know, as we took a conservative approach last year, this time, in projecting for the upcoming school year, which we are in. And you'll hear me say in a second, we're below that projection up on Okaloosa Online, but these funds also have the ability to bridge the gap for FTE loss, and we're making sure that we maximize that. And Julie Perry's done a great job of ensuring that we do that. So that's a quick update on ESSER 3.
Could I ask a question
ma'am.
at this time? Okay. On the ESSER 3, you're talking about all these things. Is there a limit on that, or do we just ask for what we think we need and hope we get it? Or how does that exactly work?
So there's approximately $53 million that goes between us, and then charter schools also get a portion of that.
Right.
So every district across the state of Florida and across the nation get these ESSER funds, and then you have to look at it in these specific categories. Then we have to have folks who do very specific descriptions in each of these categories, submit it, it's got to be approved, and then once we get that approval, we'll be able to then start spending that money. If adjustments need to be made, then we would make adjustments as well.
All right. And then on, back on the employee relief and retention, that part, I love hearing these things, retention bonus, all these great things, because I do believe we need to take some action. I know you're working with your senior staff, but I'm just wondering, have you set up some kind of committee to work with, say, our union group and all that to brainstorm about ways we can go about retaining our employees, incentives, financial and other, or I would think that would be a good thing, but I'm not sure if you've done that.
Yeah, as it pertains to ESSER, so we've met with the union, we've allowed them to
Okay.
give us input on these funds as
Right.
well.
Great.
We've put out on the website for folks to have the ability to give input just on ESSER 3 as well, which is one of the requirements to have people have the opportunity to do that. And then as it pertains to just union input in general, I meet with the union once a month
Okay.
to make sure that we are up to date on concerns or thoughts that they have.
And
Great.
if I
Thank
might
you.
follow up
Sure.
regarding that, and certainly, Mr. Attorney, I know the superintendent will look to your advice concerning collective bargaining requirements associated with any such possibilities that might come about with these funds. I do have another question, though, if I might,
Sure,
at
yeah.
this point, follow up. I know you mentioned some help for our schools, particularly certain schools that were identified by special programs and special needs. And so I'm wondering if these funds can be used to hire additional personnel, perhaps even at those schools that you identified. And I don't know if that's something you're prepared to talk about now, or if it might be something that you would bring to us later. But I'd be curious to know if these funds can be used to hire additional personnel.
So from what has been shared with us on, I was going to say a few conference calls, but really limited information has truly been given on this. But our understanding is you are able to have personnel,
Good.
but you have to be prepared that once these funds run out,
Sure.
that you have the ability to continue it.
Yeah.
So we know in Okaloosa County, we usually have about 200 or so employees who leave. So within what we are doing, we're making sure that we're being very mindful of the number of folks that we would hire, because we know that over 200 such folks leave, so we have the ability to move them into positions that would be there in the future. With the ESSER II funds, we were prepared in the spring to look at approximately 50 remediation teachers that we were going to bring in. Again, knowing that about 200 or so leave, so at the end of the 2024 school year, we'd be able to absorb them into the school district. The problem is the ESSER II funds weren't, we didn't get word in school districts across the state, didn't get word until September. So we were prepared to start last April, May-ish timeframe hiring folks, because you knew you had to get ahead of that, but we weren't able to do so. And I know this is a lengthy process getting all this going. So in the 2022 summer leading into that, we will look at hiring different folks within this plan to give us more support in the schools.
Well, I know, and board members, I know you know, or you'll look, that based on some evidence, we have schools that could clearly use some additional support, given some of the evidence that we all receive and certainly is available. Okay, so I would support that, particularly in those schools that have those identified needs.
And I appreciate that. And what I would say that I think you guys would find interest, Mrs. Lightbourne and her group has done a great job with the funds that we do have.
Right.
So we've created 3 different categories of support for what we're calling schools in need, even though in Okaloosa County they're comparatively they're doing well across the state, but we want to be able to give them that additional support.
Yep.
So curriculum has created 3 different categories of schools where they'll be provided with additional plan of care funds for tutoring, additional professional development, support from district staff and coaches. So I'm proud of the tiered plan that she has created for particular schools.
And I might add that such a plan is wonderful, and I appreciate that, and that we have done that for many, many years in helping schools that have those identified needs. And while your plan might be new, the concept isn't really new. Some of us remember the plan of care dollars, and schools were awarded those based on needs. And so I'm grateful for your work in that respect, because I think the evidence is pretty clear that in some cases it's drastically needed.
Mr. Chambers, you mentioned a few minutes ago the $53 million that's been allocated to Okaloosa County, and it was said that a portion of that is for charter schools. So is that determined for charter schools like by their FTE? Is it like they receive 10? Or how is that determined? And I'm sorry, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
That's all right,
saying
and
that.
correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, it's an FTE percentage that would go to them.
Okay, so we receive a portion of, they receive a portion of we all receive a piece of it.
Absolutely, and just to reiterate on this, so the money has not arrived in Okaloosa County.
Right.
And the application has not arrived in Okaloosa County, but they assure us that it's coming. So I know myself and superintendents across the
Check the
state.
mail.
Check is in the
Check
mail.
is
Yeah.
in the mail.
So we're eagerly awaiting these funds, because they're important, again, in terms of bridging the gap
Right.
during these times.
Well, and that $1,000 bonus for the teachers, that's kind of part of this check is in the mail? Oh,
So that'll be part of our plan,
Right,
that
okay,
we
so we're
will
still waiting.
submit to look to get approval. If there was any issue with that plan, we would look at where we can make an adjustment. But our plan is to put it in there, and then we'll adjust if necessary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
A very quick COVID update. As you know, we've talked about 4 weeks ago, we were at about 537 cases. This past week, we were at 537 cases for the week, about 4 weeks ago. This past week, we were at 15 total cases for the week. And this week, we're below that projection as
Yay.
well. We used to have there were a large number of quarantines 4 weeks, 5 weeks ago. The last that I looked at this past week, there were about zeros each day. So the good thing is where we have healthy students in school and able to get to the business of educating students, but still being mindful again of student safety. And we will continue looking at that. We still do have our COVID testing site here at the central office. We'll continue that until we are told that we do not have to do that, or the company's not able to do that. Enrollment, I kind of alluded to it. The FTE capture week ended on October 15th. We were about 500 students below the FTE projection, and that's with last year, this time, doing a conservative FTE projection. I will say Okaloosa Online is about 616 students. So if you look at school-based enrollment, Okaloosa Online enrollment in terms of equivalency, in terms of FTE, even though the caveat would be Okaloosa Online students have to complete, but 616, historically 268 Okaloosa Online enrollees in 2020. So we are up in Okaloosa Online. That will help offset the 500 decrease. So that's a good thing, but we will still be short. Going back to the ESSER III dollars, which is where we'll be utilizing those dollars to offset that FTE loss. So as you know, we have FTE reserves if we do not meet it, where we pay out of those reserves. So the ESSER III funds will help us keep those funds healthy, so to speak. But again, a true expenditure of ESSER funds, knowing that FTE was impacted during COVID times. So that's a update on enrollment. Quick, go
Real
ahead.
quick, Mr. Chambers, so on enrollment, just so it's clear, that's our 38 schools that we have out there. That's the enrollment. That doesn't include like Destin High School, Liza Jackson. Is that correct?
I think it's all encompassed, but our 500 is strictly Okaloosa schools.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Sir. And then capital, just really quickly, I think we're excited, and Dr. Kelly and her group has done a great job. We're getting towards the ending phase of single point of entry. So that is an exciting piece. Remember, that was going to probably be 3 or 4 years out, and now we're able to get that done. So those schools being secured, as we all know, is critical. Your approval on Monday, or pending your approval on Monday, with the selection committee or the underwriting certificates of appreciation, which will allow us to get going on the multipurpose rooms, the cafetoriums, the additions to certain school buildings. So our goal is in February, where we will have some form of a turning of the dirt and being symbolic of all the different projects that will begin in that February timeframe over the next couple of years or 3 years. So excited about getting that going. And then the master plan for this facility is almost here. It's almost here. It should be short. I ask Mr. Horton every day. He says it's almost here. I know Dr. Kelly's very on that as well, so I appreciate that. But once we get that, we'll be sharing that information with the school board. And then lastly, the parent surveys that we know that happen annually. Those parent surveys that go out for all of our schools, that will start on October 26th, and it will span probably through spring break, so we give people the opportunity to be able to give input as to the parent survey. And that's all I have today.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. So now we'll move down to board members' announcements, and we will start with Ms. Garner today.
I'd just like to share that on this coming Saturday, that Silver Sand School will be hosting their Autumn Splendor Fair. And it's, again, this coming Saturday, 8 to 1. There's going to be vendors. I just spoke to Ms. Wheat. There's 20-plus vendors there. They have plants from their greenhouse. There's going to be food truck, student art, a great event. I know I'm part of ADK. We have a booth there, so there's going to be some beautiful hand-painted Christmas items. So it's a great time to start marking off those items on your Christmas list. And Dr. Kelly, what's Christmas? 8, 9, 10 weeks away. We won't even go there. But in sharing this, also I'd like to thank and recognize, I've been to a couple of different events lately, and I sit back and I watch, and to see our community members, to see our parents, to see our employees that have worked these long weeks, long Fridays, and they're out there on these evenings and they're selling tickets, they're working concession stands, they are at fall festivals working on these Friday nights and again on these Saturdays. And just to thank them and just to know that, we do recognize that it makes our schools even stronger. This supports our students, and if there's anyone that would like to be a part of this, you can always go on Okaloosa County website. We spoke earlier about the foundation. There's so many ways that you can be involved, but just would like to thank these individuals. I mean, these are full-time people that are working and giving back to our schools, and that just supports our students even more. So thank you for that, and come out on Saturday. This is going to be a great event. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. Ms. Vanche.
Yes. Well, my Gators came up a little short last Friday, but listen, they are champions, and so don't count them out. I'm still cheering them on because that's a wonderful team, and I know that Coach Brunson and his coaching staff will have things back together, because no one can win every single time. On the 20 wins in a row, that's quite a mark. So hang in there, Gators. Y'all got this, and you're champions.
I think Nick Saban also realized that also.
Yeah, that's amazing how that happened. I wasn't going to go there. That gets really, yeah, so anyway.
Sorry.
But Mr. Chambers, thank you for your mention of the event on Tuesday night. I am a member of the Fort Walton Beach Women's Club and proud to be a member and on the board there. And the Women's Club has actually been in continued existence for 100 years, starting in 1921. And this year, celebrating that, they decided to actually recognize organizations in the form of a calendar that we're putting out for 2022, and we're calling it Helpers and Heroes. And one of the organizations chosen, groups, is our school district. And of course, I've kind of kept that a secret, and that's hard for me. And but I'm very excited. And so Tuesday night was the celebration, and we brought together members of those 12 organizations in a reception where we got to honor them. But in so many things, I got to be part of that, or actually I was emceeing that. And there's so many things that our school district has that the Women's Club in Fort Walton helped with, including starting the first library, starting a school lunch program. This is back in the late 20s. And one of the things I was sharing and pointing out to Mr. Chambers is when they were trying to get, what we call Lowry Place, the Bay Area office, our administration building there was originally Fort Walton School. And when it was open and they had, gone to the high school level and become accreditation, they needed some things to be accredited. And one main piece they could not reach was they did not have enough library books for the number of students. So the women in the Women's Club there in Fort Walton got out, got the money, got enough books so that it could be accredited. So there are a lot of different things, but I was honored to be able to recognize Mr. Chambers and Mr. Horton and Dr. Kelly from the board and share those events. And I want to also thank Ms. Hillary Demers, because as our specialist for communications, she created the page for our district, which is awesome, talking about that next generation of Okaloosa schools. And I heard a lot of comments, but As you know, I'm very proud of being a part of this school district and this, and I'm also proud of being in the Women's Club. And so we, just like the foundation, we're going to be, I brought, all of you didn't get one, a calendar, there you go. And so I've got some, but ultimately it is a fundraiser because we give money back to the school, just like the foundation. We have a program called S3 where we clothe students and give them a lot of supplies. So, yeah, if you want one, you know, you can see
I
me.
will pay you for this
Nope,
afterwards.
I'm glad to give it to you
No,
because,
this goes back to the school, so.
But,
It might be counted, you better collect.
but I'm very proud of our district being in this publication that's going out to our community. So, and thank you for being there. Appreciate it. I'm good.
Thank you, Ms. Vancheck and Dr. Kelly.
Well, I was just going to say, it was my privilege to represent the board on that event that was emceed and hosted by Ms. Ivanchik. And I think she's not telling you the whole truth because I happened to sit at the table with her handsome husband, Mike McMain, as she always says. She introduces him as her handsome husband, Mike McMain. And he told us that not only was she emceeing the program that night, but she actually did the layout for every month in that calendar, and she directed that whole project as the fundraiser, representing and highlighting the 100th year of existence for the Women's Club of Fort Walton Beach. So I think she did a little bit more than just MC that
very
night.
nice.
I'm
But it
going to
was
talk
a-
to him about breaking
a-
that whole thing out.
a very, very nice reception
Thank you.
and very well done. So kudos to you and your team. I know you had a lot of help with the other vice presidents
Right.
of that club, and everything went just phenomenally well. I personally enjoyed all of the little tidbits of history that were interjected throughout the evening, so I think that was well worth it.
Thank
I
you.
know you did a lot on that project, so congratulations.
Thank you so
on
much.
that. And I wanted to say, I believe, Ms. Gardner, that we are in the 55th day of school today, I think,
Mhm.
which
I
means
do
we
know.
are less than 50 days away from Christmas, if I
Wow.
counted that correctly. So just because you asked, I threw that out there.
100%.
And I know you want to get those Christmas presents ordered for that baby.
They are done.
They're already done, okay. And I did want to brag on the district schools that I represent. Ruckle Middle School boys cross-country team won the county championship, and Ruckle's girls won the runners-up for the cross-country county championship. But Niceville High School's cross-country swept it. They took all four categories: the JV girls, the JV boys, the varsity girls, and the varsity boys all won first place in the county cross-country championship.
Wow,
So
great.
congratulations to the Rams and the Eagles. And that's all I have, Mr.
All right.
Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly and Dr. Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ms. Ivanchek, I appreciated the story about Fort Walton Beach School. Connie and I went to school there, and we didn't know each other back then, but our principal at that time was Mr. Max Bruner, and I well remember him. I didn't see him, but I remember him. But the only thing I'd like to comment on is that Choctawhatchee High School is getting ready to celebrate their homecoming, and that'll be Friday night, and they'll be playing against Bay High School from Panama City. And I see Mr. Meyer sitting in the audience, and I'm pretty sure he remembers when he played against Bay. And I told Connie yesterday, I said, honey, I don't know if I ever told you this, but the worst headache I ever had was on the team bus coming back from playing against Bay High School. And I'm sure that Choctawhatchee will be well prepared for that. And Connie and I will be there tomorrow night, and I think we may even have some social media posts about that big event.
I imagine.
51 years ago,
And
we
Dr.
graduated
Hell,
from
the
there. And,
Master of Ceremony.
Grand Marshal.
He's the Grand Marshal.
oh, that's right, Dr. Hill. I saw that post. You'll get to ride in the parade all the way around the track. Everybody will wave.
Get your wave ready.
Yeah, and that'll be, you got the wave down. That's good. But anyway, we'll be there, and congratulations, Dr. Hale. All right, thank you. That's all.
And Dr. White, I think it's pretty awesome on your social page there. I love when you post the pictures of you and Connie when y'all were actually in high school, and you know, it's pretty neat to see you. I saw you in
Thank
your
you.
football outfit too.
Yeah, long time ago.
Okay.
Long time ago.
I would just like to comment, the other day I happened to be passing through Fort Walton and stopped at Bruner Middle School, and just coincident had it that I was there when Lowe's was delivering a whole bunch of goodies to their carpentry program. And Ms. Branscombe is out actually in the audience, and I'm not going to ask her to come to the podium, but I just wanted to just say thank you to you and David, all that y'all are doing for the CTE program. Y'all have really elevated it up to here where it's definitely people know what's going on in our county. But it was really neat because if people don't know, Brunner is actually starting up their carpentry program this year, and they have, I think, unfortunately, they've on their second teacher this year, but I think the second teacher is going to be there for the long haul. But if you walk into the school, you can see the kids were really engaged and really enjoying it. So I think it's once they get it going, and we have Pryor, and then Choctaw, Fort Walton, of course, Crestview, Baker, Laurel Hill, we're going to have in my opinion, the best CTE programs in the entire country, and people are going to be coming here. But I want to thank Ms. Branscombe for her leadership in that, and doing a great job out there.
And Mr. Bryan, if I can add to that, I was
Yes.
at Fort Walton Beach High School, so what will be nice is that Brunner's starting their program will be feeding right up into Fort
Right.
Walton Beach High School, and they were so excited to show me what they're
Right.
building out there right now and what they're doing, so that will be a nice follow-through from the middle school up to the high school, and students were excited, and I think the teachers probably more so, yeah, seeing what all is going on there, so great job.
Well, I'm excited because when Representative Maney visited the schools a couple of weeks ago, we took him to Crestview High School, and we went to the automotive program. And if you go in there, it's kind of like Pep Boys and all that. I mean, it's a pretty solid
real.
thing. So I had to have shocks and struts changed. So I bought I'm going to buy all of the parts, and Crestview High School students are actually going to do that part for us. And so I'm really excited to give them an opportunity to work on one of my vehicles. So, yeah, well, didn't look at it that way, but I was more than happy to let them, yes. All right, so now we'll go down to section 16. And again, to remind the public how much we do enjoy having public comment, we have a 2-minute version of public comment toward the end there. And then we do have some public hearing on Monday night. 17.1 will be public hearing for instructional materials, adoption for secondary science and career and technical education, reproductive health and disease education. And this will be presented by Tammy Ellis, who's our science specialist, curriculum and instruction. And this will be recommended by the superintendent for approval. And 17.2, public hearing for adoption of revised school board policy 02-11, school internal funds, presented by Julie Perry, interim chief financial officer, budgeting director. And this will be recommended by the superintendent for approval. So before we adjourn, I'll go around the room. Mr. Strong, Dr. Hale, Ms. Lightbourne, Mr. Horton, Ms. Perry. All right, this meeting's adjourned.